I just want to start this by saying that if my voice sounds a little bit weird, I am still recovering from a pretty nasty cold. Sorry about that. Ever since Security Breach were released, there's been a big debate in the FNAF fandom over the true identity of Glitchtrap. While it was pretty common for people to think that he was the soul of William Afton, when Ruin came out, most people jumped ship from that theory and began believing that the Mimic was Glitchtrap. Well, today, I'm here to tell you that both of those theories were right. Kind of. What I'm proposing is that Glitchtrap is actually M1, aka F10 and 4 from Secret of the Mimic, and is possessed by both Fiona's spirit and William Afton's agony, a theory which I'm calling GlitchDuo. Now, this might all seem sort of far-fetched, but both Fiona and Afton have quite a bit of evidence behind them being Glitchtrap. I'll start with Afton since he's been suspected of being Glitchtrap for a lot longer. First of all, the Help Wanted minigame Pizza Party has Glitchtrap seemingly recreating part of the missing children incident, specifically the murder of Gabriel, the child possessing Freddy. The Mimic wouldn't be able to recreate these events, as it has no way to know exactly how Afton killed his victims. Now, some people claim that the Mimic witnessed the MCI, but I find that really unconvincing as there really isn't any evidence for it. In Help Wanted 2's Phaser Blast minigame, when you defeat Springtrap at the end of the fire level, he makes the same screaming sound as Glitchtrap. Just a note from me in editing. I have no idea what I was talking about here, because I wrote the script a while ago, and when I was gathering all of my clips and stuff for editing, I can't find any instance of Glitchtrap screaming, so I don't know if I read this somewhere and just believed it, if I somehow made it up in my head, or if I am just completely forgetting any instance where Glitchtrap screamed. Also, in Help Wanted 2, Glitchtrap gives you a memory doll of each of Afton's victims, something the Mimic wouldn't have since it wasn't involved in the MCI. Special Delivery Springtrap has some really weird voice lines too. He copies lines from characters in Ultimate Custom Night.
How many times you can be pulled apart and put back together again? I am here to claim what is left of you will not be spared. You will not be saved.
Nobody but Afton and the Vengeful Spirit could know what happened in UCN, regardless of if it was a nightmare or purgatory. And I think it's safe to say the Vengeful Spirit is not Glitchtrap. There's also the Fazbear Fright story in the Flush. Yeah, the Emperor one. I hate it too, but unfortunately it actually has some decent evidence in this case. In the story, a digital version of Springtrap infects a human, causing them to create or birth in a really weird scene Springtrap in the real world. This perfectly mirrors how Glitchtrap infects people in Help Wanted, and then controls them in reality, turning them into another version of himself, in a way. Glitchtrap controlling Vanessa is also paralleled by the movie, where Afton controls Vanessa as her father. Well, it's pretty much impossible for the Stitch line to be in game continuity now, and the movie is definitely its own continuity. These parallels still suggest something similar could be in the games. My final Glitch Afton evidence is just the fact that Burntrap exists at all. If he wasn't made by Glitchtrap and his minions, then why does he exist? And if Glitchtrap has no relation to Afton, well then why bother making Burntrap? Now, all that evidence is great for Afton being Glitchtrap, but it's ignoring one major issue, the FNAF 6 fire. How could Afton have survived it? And wouldn't his soul still be trapped in UCN, even if the Vengeful Spirit is gone? Well, yes, he did die and his soul is still in UCN. You might have noticed I didn't claim his spirit was possessing M1, I said his agony. Although we know that fire destroys Remnant, nothing is said about agony. So even if Afton's spirit is long gone, some part of him might still remain in the real world. Fazbear Fright story, The Man in Room 1280, shows just that. After Afton's body literally explodes, his agony infects a bunch of objects surrounding it with some, weird gunk, causing them to become haunted and be a part of some of the other stories. Now, we know that the developers of Help Wanted scanned in old circuit boards while making their game, and if one of those came from Scraptrap, it would have Afton's agony on it, and could cause him to live on in a way. Now, the evidence for M1, who is very likely possessed by Fiona Murrey. In Secret of the Mimic, there's a tape of Edwin using a spirit box to try and speak with his dead wife, saying he thought he heard her down in the MCM basement once before. He also says in a different tape that he can't get M2 to work like M1, and that he isn't even sure why M1 works in the first place. Like many others in the community, I've come to the conclusion that M1 is being haunted by Fiona. Although she isn't fully in control, as she still has to adhere to M1's programming. Much like how Springtrap listens to audio alerts in FNAF 3 because Spring Bonnie is programmed to move towards children's voices, or how the animatronics in FNAF 1 can only start roaming once it's nighttime and they're no longer performing. But does this mean M1 is Glitchtrap? In Help Wanted 2, by inputting the year 1979, aka the year Secret of the Mimic takes place in, you receive a memory doll of the White Tiger plushie. Afton would have no reason to do this, or even really to know about the White Tiger, since there's no evidence he had anything to do with David's death, even if some people suspect so. There's also the another David theory, which I find very convincing, that the Mimic is trying to turn Gregory into a recreation of David. Very brief evidence of this is the similar designs and the mirrored photos in Secret of the Mimic and the Security Breach burn trap ending. Afton would have no reason to want to recreate David, but M1's entire motivation is to bring him back. In Security Breach, 3 of the 4 band members are characters originally designed by Fiona, with Monty even killing Bonnie to replace him. With Glitchtrap in control of the Pizzaplex, this could be a hint that it's really Fiona pulling the strings behind everything, since it's her characters causing a mess. Finally, in Help Wanted, Glitchtrap mimics the voice of Tape Girl, much like both M1 and M2. However, I believe Glitchtrap is M1 over M2 because, well, M2 doesn't really have a way to end up in Help Wanted. It's controlling the Mimic endoskeleton and seemingly off doing its own thing after Secret of the Mimic until it ends up in the basement of the Pizzaplex until ruin. M1, however, is a program on a computer. Fazbear Entertainment repossessed everything in the MCM facility, which would include the F10 and 4 consoles, and could eventually scan it into Help Wanted, the same way they did with the other circuits. Now, is this more the speculation? No, but it is still a possibility. For M2, I really can't think of how it would be able to both be Glitchtrap and control the Mimic Endo. So, where does all this evidence leave us? Well, when Help Wanted is in development, circuits are recovered for both Scraptrap and F10 and 4 and are scanned into it. This transfers M1, possessed by Fiona, into the game. However, M1 is infected by the agony of Afton and is corrupted. Although its goal is still to recreate David, it becomes more violent and malicious. It begins doing things to mimic Afton, and becomes a crude amalgamation of a deranged serial killer and a grieving mother desperate for her son back. Their recreation of David, Gregory, begins to also resemble Afton's son, the crying child, whose interests are at odds within the program. But which side will prevail in the end? Right now, nobody knows.